Hi, Neil.
Good morning. How are you?
What's going on? How are you today?
I'm good. Just had back-to-back phone and Zoom all morning,
I
and
get,
it's all good.
yeah, cool, man. Where are you located?
I am in Thousand Oaks in Southern California.
Okay.
That
So
is, do you know it at all? Where are you?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. So Thousand Oaks is about halfway between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles.
So are you getting the brunt of this big storm?
We are getting some of it. I wouldn't say that we're getting the brunt. In our area, it's been raining like the dickens for the last however long. But in terms of any significant damage or anything like that, no.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it swung east a little bit, and we're very west.
Gotcha.
So I think we missed at least the worst of it. Fortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, man, it's great to meet you. And before we get into your life and your work, I want to know, how did you survive COVID? How did you get through the last 3 years? And how has it changed the way that you live your life now?
Well, I'll answer the last question first. It really hasn't changed the way that I live my life now. Things are pretty much back to normal, and other than the fact that there's a fair bit of work going on in the Zoom environment, it really hasn't changed much. Still going out, doing my thing, and uh, socializing and going to restaurants and movie houses and all that good stuff. From a business perspective, yeah, it's changed it a little bit, but um, in a good way, I think. I mean, it's enabled me to talk to a lot more people, a lot more conveniently, make more effective use of my time and so forth. However, I still do quite a bit of stuff in person, in person meetings with clients, certainly in person networking meetings and associations and other things like that. Uh, I mean, it seems other than the Zoom piece of the equation, I feel as if it's pretty much the same as it was
Yeah.
pre-COVID. How about you?
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point where we can breathe again and we don't have this uncertainty and things are getting back. But yeah, I think it was hard to see at the time, but now we're starting to, I think hopefully there's a bigger level of appreciation for all the small things that we did in our lives, and especially with the arts. Artists got hit the hardest.
Yeah,
And, I think there's a lot of those things that I think are good for humanity to be able to kind of take an inhale and an assessment of what's going on around us. Um, so I'm curious with you to get to the point of exactly what you do for a living. If I put you in front of a
mm.
bunch of third graders at a career day, one of the kids said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Well, I suppose I would say to that child uh, carefully. Have any of your mummies or daddies decided that it would be better for them to live in separate households? Are you in a situation where some days you spend time with mommy and sometimes you spend time with dad? And some of the kids in the room are gonna say yes, and the other kids who didn't say yes are certainly going to know what I'm talking about. And I'm then going to explain to them that with regard to your mom, when and if she goes through this kind of a situation, I'm going to help her to figure out how she is going to pay her bills and make sure that you get what you need as a kid, and she's got time to look after you and spend time with you, and make sure that she's going to have a real nice life and that everything is going to move forward in a successful way.
So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I would, God, I would have been 8 or 9 years old. I honestly don't know. I was well, maybe I figured I wanted to be a professional snooker player. I was playing snooker in tournaments and all that. I honestly I don't know.
Yeah.
When I got to the point of 17 or 18 years old, I was actually looking to become a lawyer.
Okay. Okay.
Went to school, political science and all that, but did not pursue that ultimately.
So let me ask you this, you're from England. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and the seeds that came into you to get into your profession, to help people, to make divorce easier.
So, so I did grow up in London, England, for 17 years, although 2 of those years were spent in Canada. We had emigrated once before, unsuccessful immigration. I don't know how quite that works out, but anyway, I did, and that was good. It was a good experience from that perspective. But I grew up around people who were entrepreneurial. I cannot actually think of anybody in my childhood, at least that was close to me and my family and friends, who had a job. They were all business owners, professionals, and so I was around a lot of people who had a few bucks, quite frankly, did okay, were very free to kind of do what they wanted to do. I do remember my dad working hard, but I also remember him, buying his first, I think it was a Lotus Elan, which, by the way, he had for 3 days, and he literally could not get out of that car and sent it back. It was so low to the ground. I remember that car so well. It was funny, and there were no back seats, so
Wow.
it was kind of crazy. But I was around that. I was around people who made money, who built businesses, who were successful. There were certainly a few failures. I remember a few of those. My dad as well, who failed a couple of times in some businesses that he pursued. So I was always around people who knew what it took to be successful, who knew what it took to make a few bucks, that had nice homes and cars and that kind of thing. But they weren't, they weren't the ultra rich and famous or anything like that. I wasn't
Yeah.
around millions, but good, solid middle class families who worked hard and made a living, and did quite well.
So who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
Well, that's a good question. That's a great question because I honestly have to say that I can't really pinpoint one particular situation or one particular person who would fit that model. I look back and I wish it had been my dad,
Yeah.
honestly. But there was some difficulties there, and so it isn't him. My uncle, who when I was a kid was kind of heroic to me. I mean, he was my dad's brother. He was the guy that would take me to Arsenal football matches every other week and sneak me in under the turnstile. And I really looked up to him when I was a kid. But when I left uh, England when I was 17, after a few years, well, we lost touch. Other than a phone call here and there, that relationship waned, obviously. But I would say that he'd probably be at the top of that list just because of how involved he was with me when we were younger and the things that he did with me. And I'm an Arsenal fan to this day, and it was because of him. And so I'd say that he'd be at the top of that list.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Another great question. I would say that Warren Buffett is probably at the top or very close to the top of that list, top three. There's a guy he's got to be either 90 or pushing 90. I don't, maybe he's even older than 90. I don't know, but I
Yeah.
don't remember. But just everything that he's done and managed to do with a very level head and still living in his original house in Omaha, Nebraska. Kind of drives a regular car. He's a regular guy. Like if you saw him in a coffee shop, you wouldn't know that he's, one of the richest men in the world, and he would never let you know that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a guy I wouldn't mind sitting and having a chat with. If there was a second guy, he's not alive anymore, but I got to believe that Albert Einstein has got to be one of the most fascinating people ever.
Yeah.
Um, And there's a few other people that would be on that list, but there's two just to name a couple.
So what of all the clients that you've had, and you got to be anonymous, obviously, what's been one of the best success stories you've been involved with?
Well, you know, I've actually got a situation going on now with somebody who has suffered through a little bit of domestic violence or abuse, and me and a lawyer and her sister, I guess those are the three main players, are helping her to get out of the home, make sure that she's got the financial wherewithal to do it because there's complete financial control there. Set her up in such a way that she doesn't have to communicate with him at all, and do everything concurrently so that she can get divorced or file for divorce anyway, um, have a few bucks in her back pocket, be safe, and not have to be concerned about her financial future. And that, even though that hasn't all happened, because it only started about 2 weeks ago, it is a gratifying situation to help her to move forward. And I haven't even been hired yet. This is
Wow.
actually this is actually just somebody that I feel that just without some help, she she's just stuck
Yeah.
permanently.
Yeah. So of all the things you've done up to this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
The thing that it would have to be kids out of everything. Um, Kids and marriage. I mean, my wife and I have been married 36 years. Um, Not that we don't have our troubles, just like any other marriage, I would imagine. So I'm proud of the fact that we made it 36 years without killing each other. And my kids, I've got twin 20-year-olds and a 22-year-old, and they're all doing great. One's hopefully got a career coming around the corner. The other two are in college, moving toward their careers, and they're doing really well. And the twins were born in terrible, horrible medical condition, and were, well, at least one of them was unlikely to make it, and he is a strong, vibrant 20-year-old young man. And quite frankly, without my wife and her constant pushing to the medical community and getting everything done, he'd either be a very sick boy or not alive.
Wow.
So I'm very proud of all of that.
So speaking of youth and college, if you had a dream tonight, you ran into a 20-year-old version of yourself and you give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point, what would you tell that young version of you?
Um, I would say that that young version of me, number one, when you buy a piece of real estate, never sell it. Keep
Yeah.
every piece of real estate. This whole rolling idea of getting into the bigger house and the bigger house and the bigger house, it's just not that important. Uh, you bought that place when you were 26, keep it. If you buy another one when you're 36, keep it. And so on and so forth. That would be one piece of advice. Second piece of advice would be to take more time in hiring people and take less time in firing people.
Yeah.
That there's nothing wrong with giving people a second chance, but sometimes when they make a mistake and you see that they're not handling a certain situation well, that's not a training issue. That's just who they are, and you got to figure that out quickly and let them move on to something that works better for them and better for you.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think that the way that I look at myself is that I am an extremely successful person who hasn't yet met his full expectations. That there's still a long way to go, that there's plenty of room for growth. And even though I'm 61 and I've had some failures and some successes, that there's a lot more successes to come. And 61 is middle age at this point, maybe the prime of some people's lives. I feel it is that of mine. And the next 20 years is going to be something special to be seen.
So Neil, if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, anything pertaining to your world, where can they go?
Well, they can go to a couple of different places. They can go to the divorcetransitionprofessionals.com. They can go to the wealthcreatorcompany.com. They can email me at neil@thewealthcreatorcompany.com or phone me, text me at 818-606-7327. I answer my own phone, respond to my own email, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody who wants to chat for 10 minutes. I don't take anything for granted, and you never know who knows who.
Yeah, for sure. Neil, this has been great. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for your story. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks,
So,
Joe.